this tweet here from Color. You can see this scene here. It was made in Unreal Engine, so I tried to do it in Blender 2.8. I didn't add as many things as he added in this scene, but I think it would, if I did and I spent a little bit more time like he did on this scene, maybe I would have achieved as good results as it is. As he did, you can see he used, as I think, speed tree for the trees. I didn't add any trees. I just wanted to do something simple that my PC can handle. So I had to remove some of the elements. But anyway, this is what we are going to be. These are the results we achieved. So if you could add a few trees in the background, maybe in the foreground as well, maybe a chair here around there and something like that. You can see I added a swinging door here just to kind of add a few things there. Yeah, anyway, let's get in and get started on how I did this. I'm not going to talk about everything, how I did, say, for example, how I built the building. For that, if you want to watch the entire process from the start to finish, how I did the complete scene, you can go to my second channel, Blender Money, where I'll be uploading the time lapse. This I'm just going to be breaking down the few things, and I think we have done a lot of tutorials that everything I'm going to mention here I've already taught. I already have a tutorial on about, so let's just dive in. So of course you're going to need a building or a scene like this, and the main things here are this kind of fog, or I don't know, storm smoke, I'll call it that. And how you do that is that you just create a cube that fills your entire scene, that encapsulates your entire scene, something like that. And you need to give it a material, a volumetric material. So let's switch to shading here. I'm not sure why it's hanging quite a lot. Okay, switch to shading, and we want to change from principal BSDF to a principal volume, and remove this, connect the volume to the volume output. And if you're using Blender 2.8, the latest version, you don't need to activate volumetrics in your render settings. It will just work if you have the principal volume shader. And now to add that kind of smoke effect, we can just add a noise texture, and you can connect the factor directly to the density, and then you can use a convert color to control the contrast within that smoke. So if I do this, you can see what we are achieving. If I add some lights, you can see you can increase the power of the light. So we can select that. Let's say 5,000. If it's a spotlight, you will get better results. You can see. See, and if you want, you can reduce the density by adding a convert math node in between here, and change the operation either to add or multiply, so that you can control the intensity here. You can see something like that. And now to make the storm move, just split this screen so that we have the timeline. And use Ctrl T to add the mapping nodes, but you need to have the node wrangler add-on enabled for this. So then we can play around with the X rotation, or Y, or say depending on your scene. But I think for mine it's the X location, so just keyframe that at the beginning there and at the end, like that. So now when we play back, you can see that we have that moving. So that's how I did the fog that you see there. Sometimes it's hard to see because of, I think, the contrast, and I can also see that mine is a bit more detailed. So what I did to make it more detailed, I just duplicated this noise, use the same mapping, vector mapping, so that it has the same animation. So, but scaled this down a bit. So let me preview this using Ctrl+Shift+click the node. This takes a while to process. Okay, so I reduced the scale of this, so we have some smaller values, and you can also give it some distortion. I also think I did give this a bit of distortion. So, and then you just mix the two using color, mix RGB, so that you have larger details or larger small areas, and smaller, more detailed areas. So if you mix the two like this, and change the operation or the blending mode to multiply. Not sure why it's hanging every time. Again, you can see now we have large areas and smaller details. So I need to mix these, change this to multiply. God. And let's see. Yeah, something like that. I think we can use mix because I don't like these dark areas. So the dark areas are simply areas where you won't see anything. There won't be any smoke there. But basically, this is how the smoke will be moving. And you can see that it slows down at first and then speeds up and then slows back again. You don't want that kind of movement. What you want is linear movement. So just select the node that has the animation, so this mapping node, and hit Ctrl Tab in the timeline to change between the timeline to the curve editor, and then hit V to change the curve interpolation from, the curve handle type from automatic to vector, so that you don't have that slowing and speeding up effect. Yeah, so if you want to play around with the detail, you can just add a few details like that. Distortion, distortion, something like that. And then you can use this as the final values for the density. We don't want this here, something like that. Oh God. Okay, so that's the storm. If I can select it, and see basically it's the same setup. I just had some large noise and smaller noise mixed with the multiply blend mode, and fed that into the density. So that's how I made the storm. Now the other part is making this light swing, because that's one of the hardest parts. So what I did here, let me just open a new blend file, get rid of this. I just used the rigid body system. First you have the lamp, which was very simple to make, so I just added a circle like this. F, insert, push up. So that's our cone, and now we just need the lamp itself. You can use an icosphere, scale it down, and you would give it a different material. So let me just do that. This would be metallic. This would have material. So if you want the emission to be more powerful, just give this a higher value, so something like 3. Assign that. Now to make it swing around, we need 2 poles like we had here. So you don't necessarily need the poles, you just need 2 empties like this, one there, another one on this side, and you need something like another object to act as a physics object, and we're going to select these 3 objects, go to object, to the object menu, rigid body, active, so that they are all part of the rigid body system. We don't need these 2 to be active, we want them to be passive, so I can go to the rigid body system, change them to passive, and then passive. If we play back, only this one falls, but we want them to be, this to be tied to this here, and also tied to this here. So to do that, you just select the empties, give them a rigid body constraint, make sure the type is set to point, and select this as the first object, and this as the second object. Now if we play back, you see it just swings on that, using this as the pinning point. So if you put it closer, it swings around there. If you put it here, it swings like that. Now we just need to do the same on this side. What I'm going to do is just delete this. I'll just duplicate this to be on this side, but for the second object, this should be the second object. So now, because this is already tied on both sides, it doesn't have any wiggle room, so it can't swing. Let me reset the origin here to be around there. And see, let's see if I put it up. It's really tight there. So now, if you added wind, force wind, kind of blow this object, but right now the wind is not strong enough, so let's put it to 100. You can see now we have that swinging, but because it's just pushing this in this direction, this is not swinging enough. So what you can also do is reduce the mass or weight of the light, so something like 0.1. You can see the wind is blowing it in that direction only, so that's why you see it's sticking to that direction. So what you can do is play around, animate the wind to kind of rotate in different directions, so that can always swing back in different directions, can swing in different directions. I can also add some what is it called, noise. And the wind may not be enough, so you can also add turbulence force. Let's try 50. Also, you can play around with the strength and animate it just a bit, so to make it kind of change the direction, and also reduce in strength, so that this can swing in different areas. So let's do that. So you can animate this here by clicking that key there, and hit tab to change to the curve editor, and we want to animate the field strength, so I'll hit Shift H to only see the field strength. And what I want to add here is a noise modifier. So if you click on key, add F curve modifier, noise, we are just adding a bit of noise or variation in the strength, so that is not always constant. Now you can hit N to access the modifiers and play with some settings here. So let's see. I want in some areas to for it to be turned off completely. So let's see. You can see how the values change here. Let me expand this so that I can look at the values here. So the range of the values is from 98 to 100. We want it to be from 0 to 100, so that sometimes it's turned off. So I can just increase the strength here so that these peaks and lows can touch 0 and 100. And if you hit A, you can select the entire I don't know how to call it, but you can select it and move it around on the y-axis or the x-axis. I think it only moves in the y-axis. So you can see now we have some points hitting the 0 mark and others going up to 140. That means at some points the wind will stop kind of flowing, as you can see here. We just need and see how it's swinging, but the frequency is a bit too high, so I'm just going to increase the scale just a bit here so that we have something like that. But it's not swinging exactly as I want it, so what I'm going to do is animate these two here. So let me first make them like real poles. Push this and also grab this. Then make sure that their pivot point is at the bottom there. Origin to 3D cursor. Origin to 3D cursor. Now to animate them, we just want to animate a few values here. So I will rotate them like this, and then like that. You can turn on in video origins so that they are animated separately, they are rotated separately. If you want, you can also use the noise modifier to animate the rotation. That's what I did in the original version. So I can just select, go to the object, and then Z rotation, Shift H to just see that, and add the modifier here. So noise, let's see, that's what we have. Just reduce the scale, something like that, and then you can copy that noise modifier and paste it to that as well, to this as well. So maybe change this a bit. You can do this on the different axes, so on the y-axis as well. Paste that. Do the same for this y-axis. Paste. Now, remember these points are attached to this here. So when this moves, it changes the string that is kind of tying this together. So I just need to change this to give this the animated settings. So you can see now, but they're swinging a lot. This is swinging a lot, so I would need to change, I think, the strength just a bit. And you can see. And what I also did is I parented a light, a point light on this, so that the light would also follow that. You can see, I think that looks better. Now, this is swinging correctly as we want it, but we don't have anything to render here like a string. So if you want that, you just add something like a curve Bezier curve, give it make sure it's straightened and has about 3 points. Subdivide this. If you go to the curve editor, I can give it a depth, bevel depth, like that. And now we can hook this up to these points, to these 3 points that are being connected. So now you can just select this, the middle one, Control H, add a new hook object, and parent the hook object to this here. Control P, keep object offset. Let's see, and also need another one here, so I can just H, hook, and another one here. Control H, add a hook. For this, you want this hook to be parented to the top face here. So I just need to select this face, go to edit mode of this object, select that face, tab out of edit mode, select this, and select this object, Control P, and parent, instead of parenting to the object, parent to vertex triangle, something like that. Now you can see we have that. So you would do the same for this side. Let me do that. Actually, didn't do this in the original version, so just need to move this to there. Control P. You can see, yeah, these need better animations, but I guess you get the point on how you can animate that. See, that's how I did the light bulb, but I didn't add the wires, but that's how you add the wires if you want to add them. What else? These particles, those are very simple. You just have a plane that emits. Let me make sure I'm selecting that. That emits some particles. You reduce the gravity, and the same wind that is acting on the lamp or light should also act on these particles. I also added the turbulence. Again, we added turbulence there, so it should also act on this. Remember to add a collision property to the building, the poles and the ground, so that these particles can collide with the building and not just go through it. I also added a few smaller particles like that, and I also pushed the reflectivity of the surfaces to be a little bit high to kind of signify some rain particles or being wet. And I think that's it for the most part. Yeah, I don't see anything else that needs explaining. So for this door here, see how it's swinging? What I did, I just added a noise rotation on the Z rotation, a noise modifier to the Z rotation of the object, and yeah, that's it. Everything else is not that complicated. And also, if you look closely, you see that the light flickers. So this area light, which is lighting up the scene, I think there are two lights here. This, I gave it a noise property for its strength, so that it can light a bit like lightning. So yeah, that's how I set it up. Thank you for watching. Hope you liked the tutorial. Again, if you want to watch the entire process from start to finish, you can go to my second channel. I'll be uploading the time lapse there. And yeah, thanks for watching.